Hello and welcome to my tutorial on Python loops. Okay, so in this tutorial, I'm going to introduce you to Python loops important in Python and why they are important or really important. Okay, so the first reason why Python loops are important is because they allow you to automate repetitive tasks. Okay, so instead of just doing a particular task over and over again, you can use loops to like automate that task so that it can keep happening even while you're not washing, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Now loops also allows you to iterate or to go through data structures like list and string. So if you have like a list of objects and you want to go through all of them, maybe print them out or do something with them, or maybe you have an empty list or empty array and you want to add items to it without doing it one after the other, a loop can actually allow you to do that. Okay, loops also allow you to build logical and efficient programs. So efficient here being the most important word that you should look at for. There are some tasks that will require a lot of time for you to like do by hand. For example, if you have a large list of a large items in CSV file, it's very inefficient for you to like start printing out every line of numbers from that CSV file. But with a loop, you can easily just read through that CSV file at once and possibly print out all of the numbers or all of the data that are contained in that CSV file. So efficiency is what's one of the most important power of knowing how to like use loops, especially in context of Python. And then finally, loops is a solid foundation for data analysis, like what I just mentioned in terms of data analysis, machine learning, and specifically automation. So if you're interested in building automated systems with Python, having the knowledge of loops will really be important for you. So what are we going to be learning today? One of the things we are going to be learning today is how to use the two types of loop that we have in Python, which is the for loop and the while loop. You're going to see how to use these two loops in like doing everything. And then we are going to also loop through a some list. I'm going to show you how to use for loops in looping through a list using range and strings, and you can see how we can use that to like do tasks repetitively. And then you can also we are going also going to see some keywords that are associated with loops, such as break, continue, and s. And after that, we are also going to, of course, while we are doing all of this, we are going to go through examples and some challenges so that we can drive home the entire knowledge of what we are going to use today. So let's head over to our Jupyter notebook environment and let's start learning how to use loops. Okay, so in our Jupyter environment, I'm going to create a new file right here for our loop, and I'm going to save this and call that Python loop. So usually I create my file and give them descriptive names so that I can easily go back to them in case I want to use them again. So I'm going to call this Python loops. So I'm going to save it. Okay. So in Python, there are two ways you can actually create a loop. The first way is using the for keyword, and the second one is using the while keyword. Okay, so we call the first one here the for loop. So you can simply come here and just write the loop here. And the second one is the while loop. You always hear people say for loop, while loop. However, in all of my experience in programming, the one that is mostly used between these two of them is the for loops. Okay, the while loop is still widely used, but the for loop is used very much across programming languages and data science. So we are going to start with the for loop. So how do you use a for loop? Like we mentioned during the introduction of this tutorial, loops are used to like automate repetitive tasks. Okay. So for example, let's say we have an empty array. So we are going to call this empty array or empty list, because list is what we use in Python, and this list is going to be empty, right? So there is really nothing inside of this list, but we want to add a number between 1 to 20 inside this list. Okay, so because this is a list, the manual way you can do something like to add this number would have been something like so we can say empty list dot append one, and that will add one into that particular list. Okay, and then you can keep repeating it until you get to empty list dot append 20. Okay, so it's going to like get that to 20. So you do this one after the other until you get to like 20. But that is not efficient, and it is not really something you do in a Wii application. So in a Wii application, you have to have a way of like adding the entire 20 into that particular list almost automatically or in an automated way. So that is where a for loop comes in handy. So the way we define a for loop in Python is we start with the for keyword. So in this particular context, I can say for I or for elements. Okay, let me use a very descriptive name. So I can say for numbers in range, for number in range starting from 1 to like 21, starting from 1 to like 21, then empty array, empty array dot append, dot append. Oh, sorry about that. Let me spell this correctly. Dot append numbers. Okay, so dot append numbers. So that is what we've done right here. So what I've done right here is that I'm saying that for numbers within now this range is what is a function that Python gives us in that Python gives to us that we can use to like determine where a number that we want to start and where we want to end. Okay, so in this context I'm simply saying that every number between 1 and 21. Okay, so what this function is saying is that for numbers in range 1 to 21. Okay, so this keyword here range will give us this boundary, will create this boundary for us starting from 1 to 21. And then using these for loops, I'm going to say for every number between that range, which is 1 to 21, add that particular number to my list, which is what this append is saying now. So append here allows us to add a number to the end of a list. Okay, so instead of just doing append 1, append 2 to append 20, I'm simply going to say for every number from say 1 to 21, it should be added to this particular list. Okay, so I'm going to save this now, and then that has already been done for us. Okay, so now if I come here and now print, if I come here and print, or let's just call that empty list and see empty. Let's copy this to make it very fast. So I'll copy this and paste here, and then I'll run this. So as you can see, if we run that right now, it has added every number. So it has added number from 1 to 20 for us. Okay. So now one thing you should notice between this is that this 20, we said from 1 to 21, but it added at 20. That is just the way this range works. Okay. So it's going to stop at a number before it's going to stop at a value before the number you inputted in this place. So in this instance, it's going to stop at 21. Okay, now there's a third value you can also add there. For example, I can add like 2. So what this third value is simply saying that if it add 1, you should skip 2 number and then go to the next one. Okay, so this is the step that you want this particular loop to skip. Okay, but this is just default to the range variable that we use here. I mean to the range function that we use, not for the loop function. So again, if I run this again, you can see it's going to be 1, it skip 2, goes to 3, skip all that 2, goes to 5, skip all that 2, goes to 7, and so on and so forth. All right. So usually we use for loops whenever we know the condition that we are trying to like check for. Okay, that is when we use for loop. When we know the condition that we are trying to set, for example, if we want to set if we want to say, for example, in this case we want to print a number from 1 to 21, so we already know the condition that we are looking for. That is usually when you get use the for loops, and for most applications you know the conditions that you want to look for, because that will form the core logic of your application. Once you understand the condition that you're checking for, you can use the for loop to like do that. So let's check more examples on for loops. Okay, so let's say we have a list of fruit like this. Let's say we have a list of fruits, and let's say call this fruits, and I'm going to call this fruits, and we have a list of fruits like apples. So we have apples, and so I'm just going to pause this and do it very fast. Okay, so let's say we have this list of apples right here, and we want to print out apples, right? We want to print out all of this list. We can use a for loop to do that. So we can come here and say for fruits, for fruit, okay, for fruit in fruits. So for fruits in this fruit right now, so this is small letter. So we want to print out every single fruit. So we are saying singular inside this plural now. So for fruit in fruits, we can now print fruit. Okay, we can now print fruit. So what we are simply saying here now, using this for loop, we are saying for every fruit inside this place, print out that particular fruit. And now it doesn't have to be fruit. You can use anything. You can say for like X in fruit, print out X. Okay. So it's simply going to know by itself and just do that for you. So it's going to print out all of those items for you. Now think about this now. Assuming you want to like fill another list. So let's say in this instance now, let's add another let's add sorry so let's add come here and add another cell down here. So let's add another cell down here. Let's say we have a list, an empty list called basket. So we assign this to a basket, so which is an empty list. So with these for loops now, we can now remove items from here and add it to this basket. So for example, we can now say basket dot append X. So for every fruit inside this fruit basket or inside this fruit list now, we want to add it inside this empty basket. So if you can do that right now, we can run this. And if we print out, if we run basket now, or if we call out basket right now, it should contain those fruits that we've moved from this particular place into this particular place, right? Now, for loops does not just work in a list. It can also work in something other data type like tuples. For example, we have let's say we have a tuple list. Tuple. So let's say we have another list. Let me call this my list, and this is going to be a tuple. Remember, we'll create a tuple by using this structure. So inside this tuple, I'm going to have color. So red is going to be red here. I'm going to have green. I'm going to have another color, blue, and I'm going to have another color which is yellow. Okay, so this is another type of data structure. This is another type. This was an array. I mean, this was a list, and this is a tuple. So a for loop can also assist us in this particular place. Okay, so we can come here and simply say for colors in my list. Now this doesn't have to be colors again. You can simply say maybe for items, can be anything, right? For item, or let's use singular for item in my list. So we can now print out those items. Okay. So we want to run through this with this for loop. This for loop will simply iterate through this and then print out those items for us. So if we do this right now, you can see that it will print out all of those items for us, right? We can also use a for loop with a string. So in a string. So for example, you can say letters for letters in universe. I hope that is correct anyway. Print letter. Once again, I need to make this singular. So we want to print out those letters right now. So can print out letters, and you can see it will print out all of those letters in universe one after the other for us. Okay, now you can use for loops with a lot of things. You can use for loop with different data types. You can use it with array to print out something just like we've done here. You can use it with tuples, you can even use it with dictionaries and also with a string. All right, so we are going to come back to that, but for now let's look at the other types of loop, which is the while loop, right? So like I mentioned previously, you use a for loop when you know the condition that you want to check for. But if you don't know the condition that you want to check for, like you're not really sure of the condition, that is where the while loop comes in very handy. And this is also a very powerful loop that we have in Python. So let's say, for example, we want to print out good morning several times, okay? So, but we don't know the number of times that that good morning is going to print. We just know a single situation. So let's create a variable here called count, and we equate this count to like 0, okay? Or let's just say we create a function called greetings. We create a function called greeting, okay? So this function is going to greet someone every time. And so we are going to say why. So we create another variable already. Let's create that variable right here now. We are going to create a variable called count, and we are going to set this count to 0. Okay. Now we are going to use that while loop, right? So while count is less than 10, while count is less than 10, print good morning. Good morning. Okay. Print good morning. Now, what we are trying to do in this situation is that we don't know the number of times we want to print this good morning, okay? We just know that it should stop when the number of count, that is this variable which is 0 right now, is equals to, or is okay, is less than or equals to 10, okay? So we want to stop this variable when this function is greater than or equals to 10, okay? Yeah, so this is the correct way. We want to make sure that it keep printing good morning until the value of count is greater than or equals to 10. Now, if we run this function the way it is right now, it is going to um, throw an error, because there's an error that always, or it's going to throw an issue. There's an issue that is usually associated with the while loop, which is something called infinite loop. An infinite loop is when a system loop continuously without stopping. Okay, what happens when that happens is that it continues to use your system memory for continuously until maybe something happens, or maybe your system breaks down. That is the only way it's going to stop. And the reason why we will encounter an infinite loop in this particular place is because this is going to run. Once it print out the first good morning, it is going to come here and check if the value of count has increased. But then it's now going to see that the value of count is still 0. So it will now print this again. So because value of count is not greater or equals to 10, it is still going to print this again. So what we need to do in this place is to find a way to make sure that anytime it prints out good morning, it increases the value of count by at least 1. Okay, so if we come here now, we can now say count equals, or count plus equals 1. So this particular logic here is saying that once it prints good morning for the first time, it should increase the value of count by plus 1. Okay, so it's the same thing as saying this equals to count plus 1. Okay, it's the same thing as that. So I was just using a ternary operator, but maybe I should just leave it like this for you. Okay, so we define a function. The function has a variable called count, and then while the value of count, which is the while loop here now, is less or equals to 10, I mean it's greater or equals to 10, it should print out this. Okay, once it is greater than 10 or equals to 10, this particular logic will stop running. Okay, so let's save that and see if there is any error, and then let's call our greeting function now. So I'm going to call our greeting function. I'm going to copy that. Sorry. So I'm going to copy this again. Okay, and then just save this. So we run that and nothing happens. So why is something not happening? Okay, so let me check that. Okay, so there's a flaw in our logic here. So we say y count is greater or equals to 10, print good morning. This is not going to run right now, because this is supposed to be y count is less or equals to 10. Okay, that is how it's actually supposed to be. So that this print function is going to run provided count is less than equals to 10 or equals to 10. So once count is not less than or equals to 10, that means once it is now greater or equals to 10, it is going to stop running. All right. So I'll run this now. I'll save this now and I'll run. And then I'll come to this place and I'll run. Okay. So if I run this now, you can see that it will print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 times for us. Okay. So it will print out for us. Now, maybe if you want to test if the system will throw an infinite loop, you can just remove this line of code right here and then run this. It's going to drain all your system memory and you will not be able to do anything until possibly you shut down your system and try again. Okay, so that is one example of a while loop. We use a while loop when we are not really sure of the number of times we want to perform an action. For example, we are not really sure the number of time we want to print out this good morning. We simply just don't want it to, we simply just put a check for ya, so that once this particular count is greater than, is less than or equals to 10, or is equals to 10, it will stop running. All right. Then there are some keywords that associate, that you will usually come across whenever you are doing, using a while loop. Okay, some of that keywords, there are really two of them, which is continue and break. So continue and break, right? Now let's go back to our while loop and let's create another while loop. I mean our for loop. So supposing I want to print out the number from 1 to 10, I can do this for number. So sorry, let me close this. So I can do this for number in range 1 to 10. So I can do that. So I can now say if number equals 5, break. So I hope this is correct. So if number equals 5, break. Then I will now say print number. So print number, right? Hopefully this is correct. Let's see. So if I run this right now, okay, so you can see what I've done here is I naturally, once we use this, we are supposed to get this number from 1 to at least 9 of it. Okay, but because of this break I add here, I'm simply saying anytime that this value of this number is equals to 5, then this loop should stop running. So we can use a break statement to like break the progress of a loop. Okay, so we are just looping this number, but once a condition is met, we want to break the loop and not continue again. That is why we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Once that number, the value of that number that is supposed to print next was equals to 5, we now break the loop and the loop will not continue. So we have this break statement to like break out of a loop once a certain or a particular condition is met. So think of a logic that you're doing. Let's say you want to add item to an array. So once the length of that array is equals to like 20, you can now break that particular array. So let me show you that particular example. For let's say we have new list here. We have a new list and we have that new list to be equals to an empty array. So for numbers, now let's add like from 1 to like 20 to that array for numbers in range, 2 to 20. Okay, so what we are going to do now is that if the length, of course this length method right here allow us to like check the length of array. So if length of new list, um if length of new list equals 10. So we want to check the length of new list now. If it is equals to 10, we will now break out of that. Okay, we will now break out of that. We will not add again. So from number from 2 to 20, if the length of that array is now equals to 20, I mean equals to 10, we will break out of that array. If not, we will now do list new list dot append number. Okay, dot append number. No, okay, in this instance. So let's see if this will not throw an error. So if we save this right now, okay, we have that. And now let's see the new list. See, so if we print out new list right now, it is still empty. It is still empty. So let me confirm why that is. All right, so the error we have here is that this line of code is not supposed to be under this particular scope. Okay, so it's supposed to be um, out of, just like this, in the same line with the if statement, right? So essentially we are saying for number in range 2 to 20, append those number to this new list. But if the length of new list is equals to 10, then break out of that new list. Okay, so we'll do that and then we'll save it, and then we'll print out this new list. Okay, so if we run this now, you should have from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 as the total item in that particular list. So instead of having up to like 20 items inside that particular list now, we'll just have 10 items because we put a break statement right here to break out of it. Okay, now there is another keyword that I mentioned earlier, which is continue. Now what continue does is that when it gets to like a particular number, it skips that particular number and just continue to the next one. For example, in this particular place now, I will change this to like continue and you'll simply see how this works. So I will change it to like continue. And then if I run this now, if I run this, you will see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4. But instead of 5, we skip to 6. Right. So what continue does is that what it does there is that it checks if the number is equals to 5, it skips that particular number and then goes to another one. So let's say you are doing a particular stuff, you can use a condition here and see you are maybe you're adding an items to a list. So you want to check if that item is equals to a particular stuff, skip that particular item. So we can use the continue statement. Let me show you an example right now. So let's say a car list. We have a car list and this car list contains several types of cars. So the first one is Honda and we have another one like BMW. We have another car here like I don't know, I'm not really good with cars. So we have another car like Benz. So Benz. We have another car like Toyota. So Toyota, right? So that is it right now. Okay. So we want to add this list of cars to another list. Okay. So we have another list right here. Let's say our purchase cars. This is a list of cars that someone purchased or you purchase or I purchase, and we want to remove the cars that I have purchased here and add to this my purchase list car, right? So, but in doing so, I don't want to add BMW into that my list. Okay, so I don't want to add BMW into that list. So this is my list of cars, purchase list, but it's currently empty. So I can now say for car in car list, right? For car in car list, if car equals BMW, if car equals BMW, I'm going to skip that particular car. So I'm just going to say break. I'm going to break. So it is going to skip BMW. However, if it is not equals to, I can now do purchase list, which is the list of cars I'm purchasing now, dot append cars. So dot append car now. So you can see that. So if we run this now, we print out our purchase list right here. If I do this right here, we say car list is not defined. Okay, yeah. So that should be a mistake. This should be in small letter, not in capital letter. So small letter. So that is Python is very very case sensitive. So car list is not defined, and this should be in capital letter. The area should be in capital letter. Good. So that should remove that error. Good. So if we come here now and print out our car list, you should see that we have Honda right here. Okay, so why does it only attach one item instead of attaching all of those items for us? Okay, I think I know what the mistake is in this particular situation. Should I fix it or should I let it as an assignment? So let me fix it and show you why it's like that. Now, the reason why it is like that is because if you look at this place, we use our break statement, which I mentioned. So once it gets to that BMW, it will break instead of just adding all the rest. So what if we want to add all the cars? Just keep the BMW. You can come here and just say continue here. So you can come here and say continue, and then if you save this now, and you can see, so it will add all of the cars you've purchased, which is Honda, Benz, Toyota, into that your purchase list, and just left out BMW, right? So if it was just Benz, I mean Honda, you can just use brake here, and it will add Honda, and then once it gets to this place, it will brake and not continue anymore. So that is the summary of for loop and while loop, and how you can use them in real life projects. Now, maybe in future you can come across more complicated situation where you will need to use these two loops, okay? But these are the foundation of everything you need to know to be able to excel in such kind of condition. All right. So thank you for watching this tutorial, and I hope you enjoyed and learned something. See you in the next one.